Minister. Senator Rice.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Infrastructure and Regional Development, Senator Colbeck. Senator Colbeck, will the government revoke Alcoa's temporary shipping licence and save the jobs of the 38 crew of the MV Portland? And if not, why not?
The Minister for Tourism and International Education, representing the Minister for Infrastructure and Regional Development, Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. Thank you. Mr President, the decision announced by Alcoa to decommission one of its ships is a commercial decision that has been taken under legislation passed by the previous Labor government, not anything the government's done. So this is legislation that's occurred under the Labor Party's coastal shipping legislation, passed, I might add, with the support of the Greens. And so Alcoa's decision to decommission the MV Portland is one of a number of measures the company is taking to reduce costs in order to ensure the ongoing viability of its aluminium smelting plant in Portland in Victoria. This smelter employs more than 2,000 employees, Mr President, and so we understand the Greens' desire to deindustrialise, to attack large employing industries in this country, and so the company is aiming to protect these 2,000 jobs by making its business more efficient. And might I add, Mr President, the changes are occurring. This action is occurring under Labor's coastal shipping legislation, the legislation that the Labor Party told us would save the Australian shipping industry. And what's happened? What's happened, Mr President? Less ships, less freight carried on the coast, and less employment. There's the legacy of the Labor Party and the Greens, Mr President. And so
Senator Lyons and Senator
a government and an industry trying to protect
Thank you,
jobs,
Minister. The time for answering the question has expired. Senator Back and Senator Cameron. Senator Cameron, Senator Lyons. On my right. Senator Rice, supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Senator Colbeck, given the Senate last week emphatically rejected the government's agenda to destroy Australian jobs and industry in coastal shipping, and this decision was a foretaste of what is to come, how can the government justify this ongoing attack on this vital Australian industry and its committed and skilled workforce?
Order on my right. Minister.
Senator Rice demonstrates the dangers of not listening to the previous answer and having a pre-prepared second question, because the changes being made by Alcoa have nothing to do with the coastal shipping legislation that was voted down last week. Quite ashamedly voted down last week, I might say. It had nothing to do with it. It's under legislation that you passed with the Labor Party in the previous parliament. So it's your legacy, Senator Rice. Mr President, this is Senator Rice's legacy, not this government's legacy. The Labor Party got the Greens to vote with them to pass coastal shipping legislation, which has contributed to less ships, less employment in the shipping sector and less freight being carried on the coast. In fact, Mr President, it's cheaper to bring product from overseas than it is to bring it around the Australian coastline. So the Labor Party and the Greens are locking Australian business
Minister.
out of
the
Australian
time for answering the
manufacturing.
question has expired. On my left and my right. Order on my left. On my right, Senators Edwards, Back and Cameron. Order. Senator Rice, a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. So, given that, what does the minister then say to the families of the workers on the MV Portland, including the children who face Christmas having to go without, as their parents' jobs are on the chopping block.
On my right, Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. Can I say, Mr President, one thing that I think we all agree on is that it is very difficult for these families at this point in time, given the decision that Alcoa has had to make. But let's place the blame where it lie, with those opposite and their friends in the Greens. Those opposite and their friends in the Greens. So, Mr President, this is a very difficult time, but the blame for this lays with the Labor Party's legislation and the Greens coalition with the Labor Party, because these things are happening, these changes that Alcoa are making right now. And quite unfortunately for the families that are involved with, under the legislation that the Labor Party promised would save their jobs. The Labor Party promised that the changes they made would save the coastal industry, shipping industry, and
Thank
they
you,
misled
Minister.
those
The
in
time
that sector.
for answering the question has expired.